Hello, welcome to this video on the sun and astrology, the archetype it can represent and what it just represents generally in your chart. So I have researched astrology a lot throughout the years because I find it fascinating as an archetypal system. And when it comes to the notes that I've taken, it mostly centers around keywords that I found. Different astrologers from different systems, what keywords do they assign or associated with each planet or each sign? And so here with the sun, here is the list of words that I have amassed. Because astrology, it's symbolic and it's intuitive and it's archetypal, and so you have those words and they'll trigger some sort of image or perhaps like an energy, and that can give you a clue into the nature of what the sun is. So the spirit, right? The sun is the center of our solar system. Every planet gravitates around it. And so when it comes to us, what it represents is the foundation of ourselves, our basic identity, the purpose that we consciously feel. And so it represents the core of us, or our heart, really just a heroic myth, you could say. It's the part of us that is really visible, that shines through. It's often linked with fame or illumination or the day, right? So it's something that is conscious within us and that other people can see, the thing that shines. And I would say that it represents the great archetypal themes of our lives. It's the myth we came here to experience, or the heroic role we came here to play. It's really foundational and central to who we are. If we were to compare it, let's say, to typology with MBTI, it would be the dominant function, or something like that, meaning that it sets the great goals of our life, and it sets also our main values, our agenda. So it's about our purpose and our destiny, the ideal self we want to embody in this life. It is our ego, right? Who we are, our identity. Ego has a lot to do with that, and ego isn't necessarily at all negative. A positive ego is crucial to be healthy and kind and good human beings. So it's the self, it's our life direction. It's also our vitality and our health, because it represents how much fire we have to go through this life, right? It talks of consistency and stability. So it's the part of us, since it's the center of our solar system and everything revolves around it, there is this stability. We can count on the sun to be there every morning and to set every night. And so it's the part of us that's consistent, that's stable, that just doesn't move, right? That is there no matter the hour of the day and no matter the period in our life. It talks of a treasure or elixir, because it represents a little bit the fire of life, right? Our true purpose. So often finding treasure is like finding the spark, why we may want to live. It talks of consciousness because it's light, right? It lights up things. There is no darkness with the sun. So everything that has to do with the sun is a conscious identity, conscious goals. And it just talks about how conscious you are of yourself and perhaps of the self of others. So awareness is very similar. It's often a symbol of the father of or the king, right? Let's say you're in a castle. The king is often the one that centers everything. It will set the agenda. It will set the main goals. It's the one that has the final decision. So the archetype of the sun, or the function of the sun within us, acts the same way. It's the king in our castle. It talks of courage and strength, because to shine so visibly and to accomplish your hero's journey takes that courage, and often it comes from with people who have a good sun or who have a very present sun archetype. They often show courage and strength. It talks of inspiration and creativity. From this spark of life comes a desire to create the ideal self, the purpose that we see. Illumination and fame, I've talked about it. It talks of authority and warmth and brightness, right? So it is something that will be authoritarian, like within us. And you could say that people who are sun dominant are led by the heart, because it's a symbol for the heart. So you can say that that can be mixed up with Leo a little bit, but nonetheless, it's still associated with the heart, the sun. And yes, and then it talks of willpower, right? So that's different than Mars. Mars is another fiery planet, but the sun is slightly different here. It speaks of patriarchy, heroism, striving, the process of individuation, which I think is crucial here, right? When you really truly want to differentiate yourself from other people you've known, to find your true identity and your true archetype, that would be a sun process. It talks of fulfillment, divinity, faith, day, the future, and being. The future because it's your ideal self and what you're striving towards. It's your mythical journey, so it's sort of like the end point you wish to reach, and so it's very future oriented. So that's what it would represent in a chart. If we were to derive a certain archetype from that, it would probably be something that has to do with divine purpose, a radiant identity, and heroic illumination. So someone who is sun dominant, someone who has the sun archetype very much so developed within their psyche, would be the radiant center of life. They would walk the path of individuation, seeking to become who they truly are, not in rebellion, but in alignment with their inner truth and their true conscious purpose. So they would embody purpose, consistency, and creative vitality, and shine not to dominate, but to inspire, right? A heroic sort of inspiration. So core traits would be that they would be purpose-driven. They would feel an inner calling or a destiny. They would be heroic journeyer. They would experience their life as some sort of personal myth or a quest for fulfillment. They would be visible and magnetic, so they would have natural charisma and warmth that would draw people in. They would probably be seen and remembered by others. They would be centered and stable because they would be anchored in self-awareness. So they would radiate that strength and that clarity and constancy that comes from knowing who you are deep down. They would be a creative beacon. So they would be fueled by divine inspiration. They are makers of things, right? Like art or leadership or any other movement, even creating meaning. They would represent spiritual authority. So it's not authoritarian in a strict sense. It's more like a noble presence. They act as the king or the queen of light, guiding people and illuminating, not ruling or controlling. They would be the bearer of conscious will, so they would act with intention. They would never drift by in their life passively. They would strive towards self-mastery and transcendence and truly becoming their true self. They would bring a message of vitality, so their health and energy and lifestyle would often reflect deeper spiritual alignment. So the body is a bit like a temple of the self. They would be warm yet alone, because the sun shines on everything, on everyone, but it's not always touched in return. So there's this idea of the sun person being admired but isolated. And they would often be gifted but envied. So because they carry the light, which is, the source of life, others may project both inspiration but also jealousy onto the sun person. They obviously have shadow traits. That's to be expected. So that's only when the sun person, perhaps the archetype is a bit too bright, a bit too flamboyant, in the sense that it's not necessarily balanced by other archetypes, or if you're reading astrologically, maybe the sun is a bit too strong or at the inverse too weak in the chart. So that could be a reality. But you could see tyranny of the ego. So when the identity becomes really inflated or maybe even brittle, they may dominate instead of guide, trying to reach that sort of inner authority that they actually don't feel. They could lead to a burnout or even narcissism. So they could be too much into exposure of the self without real inner replenishment, and it could lead to a collapse or self-centeredness, just always about them and their identity and look at me. They could have a desire for recognition, but that can mean they fall into the trap of like seeking fame and seeking the positive affirmation of others more than anything else. They could show excessive control, perhaps in the fear of chaos or even failure, which, you know, when you fail as a sun archetype or in the sun domain of your life, it's very visible. So the failure is seen, and so they may suppress spontaneity. They could have a wounded hero complex, right? So they over-identify with saving others or proving their worth through suffering. So they're trying to be noble or to have a life or an identity that's worth it, but they go to great lengths, you could say. And there can be a patriarchal rigidity because the sun is a masculine energy, as you may have seen all the themes we've explored, and so they may internalize or perpetuate rigid authority structures instead of allowing these structures to evolve and grow. And so that would be the archetype of the sun. So someone maybe who has the sun really strong in their chart, or at the inverse really weak, but in general also just the sun archetype, the part of us that is sun-like and that we can definitely call upon. So if we want to call upon this archetype, there are symbols and motifs that represent the sun. And so obviously the sun, I think that was pretty easy, but gold, lions, thrones, mirrors, crowns, fire and daylight, kings and queens, solar discs, eyes, temples, solar flares, and hearts. So these would be symbols that you can definitely call upon if you want to. But when you're this archetype, when you're the sun archetype, you're aligned with your core truth, with who you really are, right? You're very authentic and you listen to your true self, your soul, your heart. You will feel clean and you will feel conscious. You're seen without trying because you just radiate that nobility, that heroic myth. You don't chase applause, you just shine for the sake of life. You just shine because you know your purpose and you're not afraid to share that. You feel that you're on your path, that you know your path and the end and where you're going. There is clarity, creativity, and spiritual sovereignty. And even if you're afraid, you act because you believe. When you have a path, a purpose, right? You feel aligned and you have faith in yourself and in life. And so I decided also to create a little mantra, right? If you feel like the sun, you just want to call upon the energy of the sun or awaken it within you, right? On a certain day or for whatever event, I don't know. But there is this like mantra. And I like the mantra because it also helps us quite like kind of understand the archetype in a way. So the solar mantra would be, I am the fire at my core. I shine, I grow, and I lead. My light is mine, my path is sacred, and I rise always. And I think you can see all the light, the heroism, the nobility, the enlightenment, the consciousness, you know, in this little mantra. So there you go. That's like maybe an introduction to the sun. I'm sure I could say other things, but I think that that's quite complete when it comes to the archetype of the sun. And next video will be the moon, which I really like. But before that, I'll continue the Jungian series. And I hope you liked, I don't know if you can see, but I put like gold on my eyes and a gold dress, and like I tried to be thematic. So hope you appreciate. But there you go. That's everything I know about the sun. Bye.